Hello and welcome back to the Level Up English podcast. How are you doing today? It's an exciting time of year because this is the last episode before Christmas in the UK. I think this will be out on the 21st of December, so Christmas is just around the corner. That means it's coming very soon, and I, for one, am excited. So I don't know if you celebrate Christmas or if you have some other holiday, or maybe you just have a regular weekend coming up. But whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a nice time, and I hope you're able to take some time for yourself. Take a break from work, from studying, do something fun. I think it's a nice thing to do at this time of year. But I've got a lot coming up in the next few weeks and the next year as well. So before we get into today's episode, all about introverts and extroverts. I think that could be an interesting topic to discuss today. Before we get to that, I've got some news and updates for you guys on a few different things. I had a very tiring day yesterday because I went out for a walk in the countryside to film a YouTube video. And I think it was quite a good one. I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. I don't think it sounds very exciting. I need to think of a way to make it sound exciting on YouTube. But basically, I went out and I filmed some of the old mining history in the countryside in Cornwall. And it's, over 100 years old, people digging into the ground, there's ruins of old buildings, there's holes that go down hundreds of meters into the ground. Very scary stuff. But basically, I walked around, I gave you a tour, and I also shared some really useful English words and expressions while I did it. So I don't know if that sounds interesting, but I really hope you can check it out. So remember, I do have two YouTube channels. I have one for the podcast. You may be watching this episode there now. But I also have another one where I upload a couple times a month. And this one is more English lessons outside, giving you tours around the UK, something like that. And this one is called Level Up English. It used to be called English with Michael. So if you go on YouTube and type English with Michael, maybe you will find that channel easier that way. But anyway, I'll put a link in the description. Hope you like that video coming out. Another thing that has happened recently is I had a giveaway. I had a giveaway where I gave away a 1-year free membership to someone, well, one of you guys, and I had some Level Up English goodies to give away. So one thing I had was a notebook. You may be watching on the video right now. It's like this. Very nice looking notebook. Pens, pencil case, stickers, that kind of stuff. So someone has already won that competition. This was on the 10th of December, a couple weeks ago. So that was exciting. That was news for me. And hope those of you who entered enjoyed the competition. If you want to keep up to date with all this kind of stuff, I always announce this stuff on Instagram. So my Instagram page is just English with Michael, no spaces. I often announce things there, like news and updates. Another option is my email list, which you can sign up to on my website, or there's also a link in your podcast app, probably in the description of this episode. So if you want to join any future giveaways or hear updates in the future, these are the two good places to go, Instagram and email list. I update them all the time. But yeah, you'll have to let me know what I should do with all the other merch I have right now. Merch is kind of like products with your logo on them or something like that. So I still have some more. I've got notebooks and stationery and stickers and things like that. Let me know if you think I should do another giveaway, if I should maybe sell them, if you want to buy some. I don't know, but that's something you could do if you wanted to. One more quick piece of news now is a change to the podcast, which is I'm, for now, going to be pausing the Saturday episodes. So hopefully you won't be too sad about this. If you're really unhappy to hear that, let me know. Your feedback is always helpful, even if it's bad feedback. At least I know what I'm doing wrong in that case. But I'm going to pause them for now so I can focus on a new course that I will be making in the new year. I'm going to be putting more time into something else, so I need a little bit more time to do that. So I'm going to just go back to one episode a week like I have been doing for the past few years. So I hope you understand. I hope that's okay. But I will put all of my energy and effort into these one episodes a week. But as always, for the members, there is still a private episode that comes out every Friday. That is not changing, and maybe I'll mention that again at the end of this episode too. And yeah, you may have also noticed that this is episode 199. We're almost at a milestone. A milestone is when you reach a number that is very special. So usually it would be like 10, 100, 200, 1000, one of these big round numbers. So it's like an achievement of doing something. So 200 episodes is a big milestone, and by complete coincidence, it's also going to land on the last episode of 2022. So I've got a really exciting one planned. I'm going to be talking a lot about, as I love to at this time of year, reflections and planning and goals for the new year. And I really love this topic, and I think you will like it too. So join me next week for that special 200 episode of the podcast. Okay, let's get into the topic now. Thank you for your patience in all that news, but I had a lot to talk about there. So as I mentioned before, I would like to talk about introverts and extroverts today. There's a lot of good vocabulary we can talk about, but let's look at some of those words, and also we can talk about how you know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, maybe the advice I would give for each one, this kind of stuff. We've got a few things we could discuss here. Let's go over the basic definitions first of all. So introvert is the noun. You are an introvert. Intro is kind of like inside, right? Introvert. This is someone who is more inwardly focused. They tend to spend more time alone, and they're happy alone, and they don't need so much to be around other people all the time. Extrovert is also a noun, and it's the opposite. Extro, ex kind of means outside, external. Extrovert is someone who loves to be around other people, and they get their energy being with lots of different people. And if an extrovert is alone, they might feel quite lonely and isolated. So those are the two that we usually talk about, introvert and extrovert. There's also the middle one, which is a lesser known word, which is ambivert. Ambivert. Ambivert is just someone who is in the middle. They have aspects of both. They're a little bit outgoing and extroverted, and a little bit inwardly focused and introverted. So at this point, do you know which one you are? Are you an extrovert, an introvert, or maybe you're an ambivert? Let me know what applies to you. By the way, it's quite simple. If you want to make an adjective, you want to describe someone, just add an ed to the end, an id. So you are introverted. She is an introverted girl. He is an extroverted boy. Right? Just add id on the end. Very simple. If you want to make a noun, add jeune on the end. Introversion, extroversion, ambiversion. I haven't heard of that before, but I'm sure that is also a word. Ambiversion. Sounds quite strange. So if you're more introverted, if you're leaning towards introversion, you're more likely to experience some negative feelings when you're not in your comfortable environment, which usually would be in a big group of people, like a busy party. So how does a busy party sound to you right now? Does that sound appealing? Or does that sound like the worst idea in the world? That's a good way to know what you are. But they might feel some social anxiety. This word is very hard to pronounce because it's spelt weird. It's Anxiety. This is pronounced anxiety. Anxiety. That's the noun. If you feel that social anxiety, you feel anxious. Adjective now. I'm an anxious person. Sometimes I feel social anxiety. This is where you're with a group of people, but you feel very uncomfortable and awkward, and it's always quite scary to be around so many people. You cannot relax. I would say that's social anxiety. I think another thing that introverts feel is they feel very drained with other people. So this word drained is very useful. I like to imagine a battery. If you imagine like the battery in your phone, if your phone has 0% battery, your battery has been drained. It's been used up completely. So just like your phone has a battery, people have batteries too. It's our energy levels. So if you're feeling drained, it's like you are a phone on 0% battery. So a lot of my friends are quite introverted, and I know if they spend too much time with me and with other people, they will feel drained. And I can see it in their face. The energy has been sucked out of them almost. But then the thing to do once you're drained is to recharge your batteries. Recharge your batteries. So this is another expression we can use that kind of is the same metaphor, the same kind of area. And it means to do something to regain your energy, to get your energy back. So for me, I might feel drained and exhausted, but then if I go for a walk in nature, it's a good way to recharge my batteries, right? So it's physically tiring, but it recharges my mental energy, right? And then, of course, if you are physically tired, have a sleep, have a rest, and that's a good way to recharge your batteries, to prepare your body for, I don't know, more physical exercise. And now you may have heard of the word fatigued. This is spelt quite weirdly as well. The noun is fatigue, fatigue. The adjective is just with a D on the end, fatigued, fatigued. It really just means exhausted or tired. Again, it's that lack of energy. So if you have climbed a mountain, you might be feeling fatigued. We can also use this word to talk about social situations. We can use the adverb socially. I am socially fatigued. Socially fatigued. That means all of my energy for talking to people has gone. Right? My friends get like this too. They get socially fatigued and they are unable to really do any normal human interaction. They cannot smile or talk to you. They just want to spend time alone. So that is the real sign of an introvert when they get socially fatigued. I think I have some introverted tendencies. That means introverted aspects to my personality because I love solitude. This is a good word too, solitude. It's a little bit like being alone. But we've got two words here. We've got solitude and lonely. Both of them mean being alone. Lonely is being alone and feeling alone. You feel like you're the only person in the world and you really want a friend to talk to. Solitude is the opposite, where you're all alone, but you're so happy. You really enjoy that time alone. So I'm going to give some more examples of that, maybe in the private episode this week, of solitude in my life. But basically, you might be going for a walk, you might be on the beach, reading a book. You're all alone, but you're so happy. That's the feeling of solitude. So let me know if you have any memories where you have experienced this nice feeling of solitude before. I think also introverts tend to be more of a closed book. We can also use this phrase closed book to talk about people. So if you're a closed book, you're someone who doesn't like to share their feelings with other people. And it can be quite difficult to know what you're thinking if you're a closed book. How do you feel? What do you think? I don't know. Tell me your feelings. So introverts are more closed. And then, of course, we have extroverts. Let's talk about extroverts for a second. Extroverts are, of course, much more likely to strike up a conversation at a party. If you strike up a conversation, this phrase means to begin a conversation. You do something to start a conversation. I think it's a really difficult skill because maybe an introvert would be kind of trying to think about what's the best way to start. Should I say this? Should I say this? But for an extrovert, it comes much more naturally, and they can strike up that conversation very easily and they don't have to think about it. And I think it can also be a skill that you learn. Like, I'm getting better at that over time, but I used to be very bad at that. I used to analyze the conversations too much. But I think you have to go with the flow and see what happens, you know. But yeah, extroverts can also be the life of the party. This is a good party expression, which just means they are the person that brings the fun to the party. You are the reason the party is fun. You are the life of the party. Would you say you're the life of the party? I don't know. I don't know how common that would be. I think it's such a great compliment to be called the life of the party. But I don't know how anyone can be that fun, really. But opposite to introverts, of course, they would be more of an open book as well. They would be more open with their feelings, talking about emotions and opinions. They don't hide their feelings as much as introverts. So introverts are a closed book, extroverts are an open book. So we already spoke about the distinction, the difference, between solitude and loneliness, right? I think there's also a distinction to be made between shyness and introversion, because many people confuse these two, they conflate these two words, and I think they're quite different. So introversion is a personality type. It's someone who likes to be alone, or at least they get their energy from being alone. And they can still be with other people, but maybe not for long periods of time. Something like that. Introversion is not a bad thing, basically. In my opinion, shyness, feeling shy, is kind of something that you could fix. I would say it's not something that you should be totally happy with. And I'm saying this as someone who used to be incredibly shy, still have some aspects of shyness today. And as soon as I fixed that problem in my life, it really changed my life for the better in so many ways. So I don't think introversion should be or needs to be fixed, but I think shyness might be a good idea to fix that, you know? So if you're shy, that kind of suggests you have a fear of people or a fear of socializing in some way. If you're just an introvert, you simply just have a preference. You prefer not to spend too much time with people. So I think it's important to see the difference between them and understand in yourself. If you don't want to see someone, ask yourself, is it because I'm shy or introverted? If you're shy, maybe you should push yourself to do it anyway. If you're introverted, then do what makes you comfortable. That's my opinion, but let me know if you disagree, as always. I also think we go through different chapters in life, don't we? So we go through stages. I did read online that you cannot change your personality in this sense. If you're an introvert, you're always an introvert. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know much about it. But I do think we naturally change as we get older. So for example, in my early 20s, I wouldn't say I was the life of the party, but I was definitely comfortable at parties. I would meet lots of people, be very sociable, like to chat with new people, make friends. And maybe at the stage I'm at now, that's less appealing to me. In fact, when I think about a party, I can think of so many other things I want to do first. So I enjoy solitude much more than I used to. However, I still have that social aspect where I love to meet people, but maybe there's limits. I don't want to meet people until midnight. I want to have fun and then go home alone into my bed. Something like that. So I don't know if that's becoming more introverted or not, or more extroverted, but we do kind of go up and down in life. So I guess it's important to be open to those changes, isn't it? But of course, I think it can be a benefit if you're an extrovert. Maybe it makes it easier for language learning, right? It's probably easier to practice your English because you're much more open with your speaking, you're willing to make mistakes. I don't know, let me know in the comments if you think there's any benefit to being an introvert. I suppose if you're introverted, you might be happier sitting at home for a couple hours and studying or listening to English. So maybe you can be more content alone studying. But I wonder if there's any studies that show the benefits of language learning to each type. But I suppose it's good to be aware of what you are and your personality type so that you can act appropriately. You know where you need to improve on to improve your English, basically. But yeah, my final thoughts on this is don't get too caught up in labels and definitions when it comes to people. That's my opinion, because I think personalities are much more complex than just a label. Like, if I tell you I'm an introvert and you go, okay, I understand you, I think you would be mistaken, because there's so much more to a person than one label, right? So I do think labels can be helpful, but they can also be restrictive. So I would say use labels as long as it helps in understanding another person. If a label helps you understand someone else or yourself, then use it. But if you hold onto those labels for too long, I think it can also begin to make understanding more difficult. If you try to fit people into these small, narrow labels, it's very hard to understand who they really are sometimes. So that's just one caveat I would give, one little caveat warning, that maybe we should be careful when using labels like this. But again, I'd love to hear your ideas on this. Some people love the idea of introversion and extroversion, but other people, they don't find it that helpful. So I don't know which person you are. I have mentioned a lot of words today, so if you want to review some of these, I do put the vocabulary lists and also some more practice with these new words and vocabulary up on the members website. So if you go to this podcast, there will be some words, some audio, a quiz to practice at the end as well. The transcripts might help you as well. It's all available over there. So that would be at levelupenglish.school, and then click on the members button at the top of the page. Another thing you'll find there this Friday is the private podcast. So I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about this topic. I want to talk about my most introverted and extroverted experiences in life, some memories I have of times when I was on both sides. I'm also going to come up with some advice that I would give to introverts and extroverts to make their life better. So you have to see if you agree with my advice or not. But that's over on Friday's episode on the private podcast. Oh, and here's one thing that I forgot to say at the beginning. So I don't know where you're watching or listening to this episode now. You may be listening on your phone. You may be watching on YouTube. If you are, hello. I am almost at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube on my second channel now. So if you want to help me out, please, please, please go to YouTube, go to Level Up English Podcast, hit subscribe, help me get to 10,000 before the end of the year. I'll be so happy if you can do that. So please go over there now. Again, I'll put a link in the description of this podcast so you can just click very easily, tap on that link, and help me get to 10,000. And if you want to, you can watch my face talking over on YouTube. Or if you decide, too ugly, you can just go back to audio and then listen in your earphones. Okay, let's do a couple quick podcast reviews, and then I've got a quote related to this topic to share with you. So one review from HSM from the United Arab Emirates. And they said, "Good morning. How can I improve my language like native speakers? Do you have any online course? Regards, Hend." I think their name is Hend. And one quick comment I would say there is comparing yourself to a native speaker is not usually a good idea. If you want to improve your language like a native speaker, you have to go back in time and be born in that country, right? So it's a very different situation. So don't try to compare yourself too much because that will lead to frustration, I think. But I understand your question. So improving your English, I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about. I think it's episode 86 of the podcast where I talk about how to get started in English. If you're looking to make a routine and get started with studying, 86 is a good episode. And online course, yep, as I mentioned before, Level Up English members. I've got many courses there. Podcast, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, writing, everything is going on over there. So that's the one place you can go to improve with me. I will support you as well. But anyway, thank you, Hend, for your review. That's very nice. It seems like we have a theme going now. I don't know if people just want to see me embarrass myself, but we're getting a lot more Chinese reviews recently. And I feel like they're forcing me to read them in Chinese. So this one is from Holy Pona in China. And they said something like 最近都听不了. Something like that. Don't be too critical of my tones. But that means, I think it means recently I have not listened. I cannot hear the podcast. So I don't know why. Because it's a review, I have no way of contacting you, Holy Pona, so I don't know what the problem is. If you're listening to this, I guess it's fine, but if you have any problems and you can hear me now, then send me an email. But thank you for the review anyway. I had one 4-star review from 0624 in China who just said very useful and perfect. So thank you to you. Okay, so let's end with a quote now. This is from Carl Jung. And he said, "If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool." So this is the importance of understanding other people. If you don't understand someone, you might think they're stupid. So I think the message here is try to understand someone. If you don't understand them, try to change your perspective to see from their point of view. It's much better than thinking they're stupid, right? I think this is a very wise quote. I'll leave it there today. A bit of a longer episode. Hope you enjoyed it. But thank you very much. Maybe I'll see you on Friday, or if not, I will see you next Wednesday for the last episode of the year. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, and see you soon. Bye.